in English or in Spanish? What should, Gayle, are you ready to but for Spanish, I wonder. Anyway, buen día, good morning, everybody. It's strange to speak here in English, but we'll try to switch back and forth. I'll start in Spanish. Okay. Bueno, estamos muy contentos de dar apertura a este seminario internacional, como lo llamamos, Financial Capital for Common Good, que tenemos la verdad que la dicha y la alegría de poder compartir y organizar gracias a la Fundación Compromiso, que ahora vamos a presentar. Este seminario, para los que no nos conocen, lo estamos organizando en el marco del Centro de Innovación Social de la Universidad, un centro que creamos en el año 2007. Acá veo alguna de las fundadoras de este centro, una gran socia, Mercedes Orís, gracias por acompañarnos. Y en el Centro de Innovación Social trabajamos con los distintos actores del sector privado, con ONGs, empresas, inversores, emprendedores, que buscan generar transformación social. Y en el centro lo que tratamos de hacer es fortalecer las capacidades y el compromiso de estos actores para involucrarse y generar impacto. Y el impacto es lo que nos nuclea en estas actividades que estamos realizando en particular hoy, y es el eje central de la jornada que está organizando la Fundación Compromiso. Y por lo tanto le voy a dar la palabra a Carolina Vicard, directora ejecutiva y fundadora de Fundación Compromiso, una amiga, una socia, una aliada de mucho tiempo, para que nos presente también este evento, esta jornada y estas actividades que están desarrollando desde la Fundación.
Bueno, buen día. Me emociona ver tantas caras conocidas y bueno, quería contarles que en estos 30 años que cumple Compromiso, dijimos, vamos a volver a hacer nuestra jornada, eso que nos aglutinaba a todos cuando nacimos hace 30 años. Y para esa jornada vamos a hablar de impacto, que es el gran tema, y la vamos a traer a mi amiga Gayle, que tuve el honor de conocer en Oxford, cuando me fui a Oxford a hacer el programa de Impact Investing, que es extraordinario. Y dijimos, vamos a celebrar y nos vamos a regalar eso, a regalar la venida de Gayle y a organizar esta jornada. Y dijimos, bueno, démosle un marco académico, y obviamente que tenía que ser con la Universidad de San Andrés. Con Gabriel tenemos una relación de más de 30 años. Gabriel, que para esa época ya tenía un PhD, ¿no? en filantropía, y ya era de las personas con más solidez académica en este tema, ya venía insistiendo que quería armar un posgrado para organizaciones y darle toda esa solidez académica. Y entonces la verdad que, bueno, 30 años después, estar acá juntos, teniendo a la directora del programa más exitoso y más antiguo en inversiones de impacto y en finanzas sociales en Argentina, compartiendo este espacio con nosotros y celebrando la jornada, que espero verlos a todos el 24 de septiembre en la UADE para celebrar el tema de la jornada. La verdad que, bueno, es una enorme alegría poder estar abriendo con Gabriel este seminario con Gayle. Así que, bueno, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Carolina. I want to introduce our guest and honor speaker for this master class, Gayle Peterson, that, as you have seen in the flyer, she is the co-director of the largest program in the world on impact investing at Oxford University. So this is a program that works with leaders from 90 countries. And so for us, it's an honor to have her here. And also it's an honor to I don't know, to share or to help to stimulate the last part of the production. She's working on a book, and she just told us that she's gonna finish the book here. So probably what we will discuss today and during her stay will enrich, or at least add some ideas to this book that she's producing. The title, it's very appealing: Good, Evil, and Wicked, the art, science, and business of sustainable development. And this book has been nurtured by interviews with over 1,500 leaders. So we are eager to learn what she has learned and she has thought and she has conceptualized in this journey and producing the book, but of course in her career helping move capital towards the public good. So thanks a lot, and we are looking forward to this.
Is on? Can you hear me? Is this on? Yeah? Yeah, fantastic. First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor and a joy to be here. The song that you came into was Here Comes the Sun. And you'll notice that I'm gonna walk around and talk because this is our conversation, right? Just as I would do in Oxford. I would come and I would look at you and I would ask you to reply and participate. So I'm here to share what I know, which is modest compared to what you know. So I want us to be a community as we think about what to do going forward. Now the book, Good, Evil, Wicked, let me unpack that. Good is what we all want to achieve with capital and the way we do our work. At least, I hope that's what we want to do. Evil is a play on Google's former mantra, don't be evil, right? So Google had in their HR policies, don't be evil. It's now changed to don't do harm. And wicked are complex issues, the most challenging issues that we face in the world. So I'm going to take you to Oxford for just a little while and enjoy the spires of Oxford. This feels like Oxford weather. It's cool. I just got back from Japan where climate change has impacted. I was in the hottest weather I've been in my life. Warmer than Buenos when it's summer, right? Hot and humid, talking about the impact of climate change and how Japan is building an impact economy. So with that, Oxford, Here Comes the Sun is, I'll tell you, I asked my relatives who live in Buenos to send me their suggestions, and Flo, you did too, suggestions on songs to play, because we have a playlist. If you come to Oxford, we have a playlist. We listen to music every day, right? Sets the stage. It's important because we talk about really challenging issues, so we have fun. And it ranged from what? What would my relatives ranging from 22 to 80 suggest? What would have been a good Argentinian intro music? Tango, yeah. Other things, pop rock, yeah, hip, yes, exactly, exactly. So needless to say, well, you know, we're gonna have to bring it. We'll have to do our playlist. We'll create a playlist for us. But needless to say, I know exactly. Carolina knows, and exactly. So needless to say, we'll put together a playlist. But it's important to begin the day in a space of relaxation and joy, right? When we're dealing with the most complex issues in the world. So this is not going to be a lecture. I'll share information and I'm going to expect as much from you as I give you. And but we'll do an overview and I'm going to have you do a case study because I want you to understand what it feels like to do impact investing, right? And then we'll talk about the Oxford approach to impact investing and social finance and what that really means in the context of leading the way, what's happening in Argentina. And you will provide the answers for me. I've got a book to write, finish off the chapters, and then we'll do some questions answered. But it's conversation throughout. So if you want to talk, if you have a question, if you don't understand what I'm saying, if you want me to slow down, I have classes with again, 1,500 people around 90 countries. The language that I should speak might be Swahili or Arabic or Spanish or French or Italian. So I apologize, we're going to do English, yeah? So what is impact investing? How many of you know what impact investing is? Raise your hand. Fantastic. So there's a definition. It's basically generate positive, measurable results with a financial return. And we're going to go more deeply into that. It was developed by the Global Impact Investors Network in New York, started by Rockefeller Foundation. Very US-centric. It's important to understand they're very US-centric. So that's the definition of GIN that's used worldwide. What's the impact economy? When I think about economy or in capital, financial capital, moving, there's philanthropy. Who among you? Well, we'll ask that later. Which is no financial return. I'm going to give you money to do good work, and you're going to do it, and I'm going to feel good about that. Yeah? Impact investing. I'm going to give you money, and you're going to give me some financial return, and you're going to do good. Okay? Then we cross the spectrum in the social enterprises to traditional business. How many of you have heard of ESG, environmental social governance? Yeah? Very hot topic. I live around the world, but I've been in the States recently, and it's become a political hotbed for a variety of silly reasons. But anyway, that's ESG. That's the traditional finance. How many of you are from traditional finance institutions? Fantastic, good. We're going to talk about that. We think about the plumbing when we talk about how we move money, how we move capital. So over here, right, the plumbing map, you've got $100 trillion annually, $100 trillion, $100 trillion, right here, under asset managers that are socially, in theory, socially responsible. 100 trillion moving into institutions, so banks, financial advisors, family offices, moving through the plumbing, market-facing intermediaries that negotiate both where wealth resides and community-facing intermediaries. Community-facing intermediaries, do you know who knows what an intermediary is? I'm gonna do this really easily. Two people stand up. Excuse me, sir. Would you stand up too, please? Okay. I want you to hand that to me, and I'm going to hand it to you. And you're going to give that back. Thank you. I am the intermediary, right? I'm in between. Yeah, I'm in between. So that market of being in between is really important. And when you think about where things get stuck, is the in-between, in the intermediary-facing worlds. And ultimately, capital needs to reach communities, global communities, right here. Right here. The people we seek to serve, the underserved, those most in need, those most wealthy are moving capital to those most in need. That's impact investing in social finance. Moving money to create social change on the ground. And what are examples of that? We're going to delve into that. But that plumbing is what we're going to talk about, where the blocks are. Many of you came up to me and said, I need to raise money for the good work that I do, eh? 100 trillion. The assets, the resources exist. How we move that money through that system is the challenge that we have. So who am I? As an academic, I can say good, evil, wicked, the art, science, and business of social finance. Originally, this was a book project that started 10 years ago. And it just continued the more interviews I did. So 1,800 interviews, actually, across 20 countries with senior executives across that spectrum, the plumbing spectrum, to understand what leadership skills they needed to move money to the people most in need. Yeah? What are the leadership skills and how you blend leadership with capital to create social change? Dealing with the most complex issues in the world. And the art, science, and business, there is artistry to how we give money and use money. There's a science, evidence-based impact. There's a business, how do I make money, right? And there's a whole conversation about sustainable finance and what that means, and ESG and philanthropy, but we'll unpack this. But this is an open source book, and actually it was supposed to be published last year. And then there was this huge global political hoo-ha about ESG, and my publisher said, you gotta write about it. And so we've been unpacking that in the politics of place, right? Whatever place you're in. There are 62 national elections this year that will determine the fate of the planet. And unfortunately, I've been living in the United States way too long for the past few months. I had not been back to Oxford. I've been traveling, but that epitomizes, as has your election, epitomized the challenging choices that we have. So that will be open source. It's underwritten by a family office, Walton Family Foundation, Lucas Walton. So this will be available for free, and there are 75 cases that are also available online that will be available for free. So I'll be harvesting information in Argentina, yeah. Who I am represents my community and my family. Carolina, Flo, the people who come to my class, or my community, my global community, 90 countries, people with whom I speak weekly, not all of them at a time, but probably 10 people a week. It's a community that we need each other. It's not about me, it's about how can I support the people that are part of my family. And Carolina is part of my family. And I also want to show you, this is our family in impact investing, Oxford Impact Investing in 2024. We do something called action investing. And again, my background is in law, business, politics, organizing, a variety of things. And we do action investing, where every colleague that comes to class actually pulls together a team across the world. So there's Juan Carlos from Santiago. There's our colleague from Australia, from Europe, Netherlands, from the United States, and she's from Paris. So we have this international group of people who are specifically developing strategies for using capital to address the world's most complex issues. Come join us. So that is, again, but the angst of developing a team exercise at the end of a week makes people crazy the first week. This is Friday afternoon when they're presenting their cases together. There's a sense of joy and accomplishment of how you create a $1 trillion indigenous capital fund, right? We think big, right? I have family here. So guess what child is mine? The one that looks like a Viking is my son and my daughter-in-law from Buenos. They met during murals when my son was doing a fellowship here in Buenos Aires. He had just come from Thailand and met and fell in love painting. So they're now, they spent 6 months here and 6 months in the States. So we are all have different roles. We are wives, we are mothers, we are faculty members, we are colleagues. We are here together in partnership. right? From the heart. That's what we do this work. So that's who I am. Who are you? Who are you? So we're going to ask the question, how many of you are from nonprofit organizations? Stand up. Stand up. Nonprofit organizations. Yeah, yeah? Fantastic. How many of you are from financial sector? Business. Stand up. Business, whatever. People who manage money. People who manage money. Okay? Spend money. Manage and spend money. People who are academics. Okay? You can stand. Keep standing. Yeah, yeah. Other roles you play. Other roles. Anyone else playing another role? Yes. What's your other role? A mom. Absolutely. Well, all of you. Yes, absolutely. Our most important role, yeah? Yeah. Fantastic. And I think that that is your role. Government, public sector, my gosh. And this is, when we think about where real capital is, it's the public sector. Yeah? It could be in pain, but it's still the public sector, public and private sector. So fantastic. Now, I want you to see these slides. Pay attention to them, please. So lost in translation. I wanted to see if you had a sense of humor, right? So you're laughing, that's good. You're laughing, you like the music, that's important. And the lost in translation of how we communicate our expectations from these very different backgrounds with very different needs. Very different backgrounds with very different needs. And being aligned and creating change. Regardless of where you are on the pipeline. So I'm going to do something that I do with every single one of my students. And you've already done this. And you've already done this, Caro. We're going to do a case study. Because I want to understand who you are. This was the very first case study that our team did. And it happens to be on the continent of Africa, but has relevance globally. Relevance globally. So this is a project, as I started my journey 10 plus years ago, doing case studies around the world, and a colleague of mine said, do a case study on our project. I said, cheerfully, that's great, let's do it. So now you're going to put on investor shoes, and you're literally going to do the first case study, the first investment in the continent of Africa. All right, you ready? So pay attention. You're going to be able to talk to each other, and you're going to make some decisions. And this will tell me who you are, right? Tell us who you are. So the case highlights. And in the classroom, I usually, to keep people awake, I would have you read these to me because it keeps you alert. And I'm okay with English, yeah? Slowly doing this. So Ghana is, the Afrin Plains is the breadbasket. Is this too loud? Yeah. Is the breadbasket of Ghana. It's also one of the poorest areas of Ghana. You can see the statistics. The poverty rate is, again, 87%. People are poor, they're malnourished, they're struggling. And yet it's the breadbasket of Ghana, yeah? And so a group of investors got together, and tell me if this is too loud. Can you hear me without this? No, I know, you know, I'm from Chicago, where people scream a lot. You would think that my voice would project, but it doesn't. So, okay, fantastic. Again, issues of poverty, agricultural welcome, join us. And so you are now an investor. A theory of change. Who knows what a theory of change is? Raise their hand. Most people don't know what it is. So a theory is, just as you would think in science, a hypothesis. I think something's going to happen, right? An investment, you have to do your business model, your explanation of why you're going to do something. What's the theory behind why you're doing an investment? So what I do is I use a graphical illustration, because theories of change can be ridiculously long and profoundly confusing. So I'm going to keep this really simple. A consortium invests $22 million to increase yields 5-fold of 80,000 farmers, right? Through sale of seeds and input. Anyone in agriculture here? Anyone working in agriculture? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, what is an input? What's an input? Input, pesticides, fertilizer. Okay, so seeds and fertilizer and pesticides, right? So that is the hypothesis. We're going to invest 22 million, right? And we're going to increase production of those farmers 5-fold through the sale of seeds and input, right? And an intermediary does due diligence. So they analyze the deal. Is this a good deal or a bad deal? Just as you would analyze whether you want to eat chocolate cake or vanilla cake or something like that, right? So you're making a decision, you're doing your research. And they use, in our world, ESG and IRIS standards. And we'll go into impact measurement later. That's something I teach and do for a living. But it's basically saying, did it meet in the screens that exist in the world in which we operate in finance, yeah? Then farmer productivity and income will increase, poverty and hunger will be reduced, and jobs will be created. Good things, right? Poverty ends, people are eating, they've got jobs, all good? Health, let's talk about that, yeah, and their health. Then investors will receive a financial return of 10 to 20% ROI, return on investment, in 3 to 5 years. Okay, sounds good? Does that sound good? Like a good deal? Yeah? Everybody think it's a good deal? Then we're not going to go into a great analysis. I do not have term sheets with me right now. But for those who, superficially, you're the investor. This is what's being presented, right? Okay. Case highlights. Wayne Ferguson's investment consortium represents high-profile organizations in the EU, US, Ghana, and South Africa. Okay? And you can change these to think about Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, United States, whatever. Just important to remember that. Consortium vetted one deal through a trusted intermediary. Not me, but trusted someone that they believed in, yeah? And the site visits were undertaken, meaning I went to see the farm and I checked it out. So everything looked good. It's important to remember that. And that there was a expectation that this was good. However, smallholder farmers were not consulted when the site visit was done. Smallholder farmers on the continent of Africa and elsewhere around the world are often women, right? Often women. So it's important to understand, mostly in the case on the continent, illiterate women. Important, they keep the family economics afloat, yeah? So again, good, important production. Now, again, the new seeds will increase, create ROI, return on investment, 10 to 20% in 3 to 5 years. Lots of media attention. This was the first impact investment done on the continent. Lots of media attention. It was a driving force for the investors, media attention. And these are friends of mine. These are people I know really well. I go for drinks with them, so I know them well. A new investor wanted to invest. And she, Angela, decided that she would do her own research. And this is what she found. So I'm going to go back to the Oxford Way. And anyone who can read this first piece for me, just read out loud. 15 pesticides, or I'll do it for you. 15 pesticides were used on the farm. 5 were banned in investors' countries. 1 is banned by 137 countries and the UN. They are legal to use in Ghana. Whose law, investors or Ghanaians? Well, you're going to answer that, but not yet. There's more. There's more. Keep in mind, lots of provocation. Oxford's about provocation, right? That's how we learn. Challenge you. These are real issues. We'll delve deeply into this. There was no training program provided to smallholder farmers. So there was no understanding of how to use the pesticide or how to store the pesticide. Are investors liable if someone becomes ill? Question, are they liable? The banned pesticides are toxic to aquatic species. This is one of the largest wetlands in Ghana, and where people use or depend on fish for eating and livelihood, yeah? So you've got an interconnection. And there's a growing number of civil society organizations that are calling out dumping of illegal pesticides and that are harmful to poor countries from the West. So lots of media attention now reversed on the negativity around pesticide use, yeah? And what's the reputational risk of investors now? And what's the public health risk? And that although produce is being sold locally, it can't be sold in a robust EU market because of the banned pesticides. And a community of smallholder farmers, again, were not consulted about what products they want to sell, right? So the farm employs children of the adult employees who work alongside of them after school. And the challenge is, there's also illegal mines, and kids need to support the family. So many of them are going to work in illegal mines. So what's the relationship between culturally appropriateness of farming for children and child labor laws? So the importance of this, let's have a conversation. Would you invest in this project? Would you invest in this project? I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it. Would you invest in this project? Why or why not? What are the conditions you might put on this project if you think the end game is the right one? What would you do? So I want to take 5 minutes. I usually give 2 hours for this. So take 5 minutes, talk to the person next to you, around you, and if you need more time, would you do this deal? Would you do the deal? What's the biggest risk? Yeah. Clarification questions, happily, yes.
Yeah, the deal has to be the way it is supposed to be administrated or even different.
You can do whatever you want, but you're considering this deal. Yeah? Okay, so everybody start talking. Put your investor hat on.
Fine?
Yeah, good. I'm happy.
Temperature?
Your temperature's good.
That's
I've got my wool on. I've got my tights. It's good.
I mean, this is the only that they have to take back home. That's right. Gayle. Let me introduce you to Marcela líderes.
Hello, glad to meet you. How are you?
My hands are sweaty. I apologize.
Yes, okay.
I love your blue. That's my favorite color.
Go back to the slide.
Yes, what would you like? Are you ready? Yeah? Are you ready? Are you ready? More time? Who wants more time? Who wants a few more minutes? Raise your hand. You want a few more minutes? Or are you ready to go? Okay, a few more minutes. 2 more minutes. Yeah? You ready? You want more? Oh, follow. Okay. Yep. Okay, ready? Yeah? Are you ready? Let us begin. So I asked the question, who are you? Yeah, I asked the question, who are you? You're energetic. You are so energetic and enthusiastic. And that's really good. So with that, we're going to close the conversation. And if you want to do this again and have longer, we'll do 2 hours in Oxford. How about that? So the largest group I asked this question to was 2,000 people in China, University of Beijing. Right? And the intimacy of 20 people or 50 people in a classroom. So I have data points. So let's do this by rows, yeah? Is it okay, rows, or did you get together? You can do your pods, right? You can do your pods. So would you do the deal? Pod over here. Would you do the deal? Okay, so whatever pod, whoever you spoke with, would you, the two of you? You wouldn't do the deal. You wouldn't do the deal. Yes, but, so conditions, eh? Okay, so yes, but, no, no, okay? Would you do the deal? Would you do the deal? So no, no. Would you do the deal? And I want to make sure that this isn't a process of groupthink, right? So keep in mind that you've got to be independent. So be independent. Don't be influenced by anyone's decision. Okay, colleagues here. No deal. You propose something else. Conditions on this deal. Exactly. So change the terms of the deal. Okay, fantastic. Yeah? All right, here, pods. Yes, but. Okay, yes, but. Say yes, but. No. No. You have a difference of opinion? Yes, but.
Yes. No, yes.
No, yes. Okay, fantastic. No, yes. All right. You would not do the deal? Too risky, not do the deal. Okay. Okay, fantastic. No deal. Okay. Colleagues? Yes, but? Yes, but, yes, but? Yes, but? All the yes, no, 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 no. Yes, buts. Okay. No, no, no. Okay. Yes, what?
Redone the project.
Redo the project, eh? Okay, fantastic. Yes? Yes, but? Yes, but? No, no? You would change the deal, okay? All of you agree, yes, but change the deal? Okay. All right. So, I told you that these are my friends. I knew every single person that was doing the deal. And I had drinks with them. And I was the person, and our team was the person who raised these issues. So my background, again, is in law. I've done environmental litigation, and I have done a variety of things in my life. I'm not 10. So we raised these questions to the investors. Who are my friends? They went ahead with the deal, as is. No conditions. None. And the process of groupthink was so strong. And the process of finding your moral compass and asking the questions, yes, but, being willing to do conditions is really important as an investor. So when I say, who are you? This is a real deal impacting real people's lives, and you're making a decision about a woman who's trying to feed her family, trying to do the best she can, right? You're making that decision. So these are my friends. The challenge I have as we think about that plumbing, $100 trillion moving through that pipeline to impact people whose lives are dependent on us, climate change and the conditions of soil, their livelihoods in agriculture, their livelihoods in making products that meet our needs, right? If my friends don't have the right moral compass, how do you know the colleagues who are moving $100 trillion, who've never walked in the shoes of people on the ground, will make those decisions? So when I say, who are you? These are real moral challenges that you face when you're sitting at a table and you're negotiating with your friends, and it's about asking the question. My job isn't to say right or wrong. My job is to say, have you thought of? And do you have the courage when you're at the table? That's my phone, my family's calling me, I'm telling you right now. And it's kind of got a tango beat, right? So what are the ways we think about this? I apologize. Let's see who it is, shall we? I used to have birds. Yeah. It wasn't my son. That's right. That's good. So is to think about the systems in which we operate, in which we think. How do we give frameworks to colleagues that are actually in need, right? Thank you, I apologize. I get excited, you know. So this is a human security framework that lets us think about the system, not the silo of the deal. Because that theory of change looked fantastic, right? And if you're an investor in Belgium or in Buenos, you look at that theory of change and say, I'm gonna improve people's lives. But you have to scratch beyond the surface. And when you come to the table, are you thinking about this system? The human security framework is developed by the UNDP, and it looks at elements of freedom from want, freedom from fear. That's this framework. What are the things in our lives that will impact us to make us feel less fearful? To live a life that is enriched and not just sustained, but thriving, right? So we think about these elements, and all of these we've seen in action, whether it's health, personal security, economic security, environmental security, community security. They become a framework for a touchstone, not the answer, but the ability to take something into the negotiating table to say, have we thought about these issues, yeah? So we took the human security framework and said, and there are due diligence processes that all bankers use, right? Right? Risk, corruption, a variety of things. And you'll have access to these slides, by the way, so not to worry about it. But again, trigger points for us who don't walk in the world of the people whose lives we're trying to improve. Can we bring to the negotiating table the questions that we need to ask, yeah? So this is one tool that we teach. How do you think about the system, not the silo of a deal? And how do you have the courage to raise these issues when money is about power? And there might be people with more money that have more power in your organization, but how do you bring these questions to the negotiating table and do so wisely, yeah? So what happened? So this is what happened after. So we're actually, I will be in Tanzania in November closing out this deal. It wasn't Ghana, it was actually in Tanzania. We had to change the names because of a variety of reasons. It wasn't 80,000 farmers, it was 125,000 farmers, right? So we're closing out this deal and this case study in November. And what we found over time, so this, again, deal made with friends, is that it was disastrous, right? And yet, in the world in which I operate, this deal has been touted as a great success, the early stages of the first impact in Africa, but not the follow-up. So what we're doing is, in fact, there was runoff of pesticides that damaged water and killed fish. That smallholder farmers did not buy the seeds and inputs because they didn't want to, right? They didn't understand them. So needless to say, it didn't change farming behavior, and they were unconvinced that, in fact, pesticides would add value. Potato and the produce was not profitable, and so investors started to leave the table. And they moved from growing vegetables to meat production. And there are a whole series of issues with meat production. So what I thought was interesting is that again, my friends with all the wisdom in the world, bred English cattle with Maasai cattle, and they died of heat exposure, right? So that's an issue, right? So we think about the longevity of a deal that was supposed to be 3 years is actually now going on 12 years, and they're closing out. And the lead investor cannot get her money out as they sold the deal to one of our alums, actually, an intermediary. And she can't get her money out of Tanzania. So there is something about karma, I think, in this. But the issue of land grabs came up. How many people know about land grabs? No? Okay, we're going to talk just a second about this. Because it's happening in Argentina. Happens around the world, where investors come in and take the land of people who live there. So understanding the legality of that, and that was an issue that came back to bite these investors, completely unknown. So the point of this case study is the highlights of what we heard when we did the interviews. We really needed a deal. We just needed a deal. And I knew it was going to fail to begin with because we didn't include the people of country, right? Go ahead, question. Not at all. They didn't. They did not. No, they didn't at all. Nope. And that's when we talked about it, right? And that's why we began at Oxford, the framework of the deal starts from the ground up. The deal. Exactly. So the voices that are missing and how those voices are included, it takes time to negotiate. It takes time to build. What's the number one word that you think about when you're building a partnership? Trust. Trusted relationship. It takes a long time to build trust. People come and they go, right? People come and they go. What's the longevity of a CEO these days at a major corporation? 5 years? 3 to 5, I heard. 5? Yeah. 3 to 5, in that area, right? Yeah. So needless to say, the leadership changes, people change. The terms of the agreement remain the same, right? So how we weather those, what's the leadership that you bring to the investment world? The decisions that you make impact people's lives. That's the reality. So, reactions, thoughts and reactions. It's difficult. That's right. It's a complex, hard. It's hard. Yeah? So what else? What else did you observe from this? Yes?
I see that the purpose of the project, which supposed to was to help people, right, wasn't not aligned with the process that the investors follow.
Right. Alignment is another important word. It goes with that trust thing too, yeah? Other reactions, yes?
It's also important the role of the intermediary, because when there's such a gap between the locals and the there's some need of translation.
That's exactly right. So who are your navigators and translators when you're working on the ground? If your end game is to achieve change in people's lives and it's not something you're familiar with, you have to find a navigator. Your intermediary, trusted intermediary has to be there for you, yeah? So what's interesting, now I'm going to ask you another question. Who works with Save the Children? Anybody work with Save the Children? Save the Children. Okay. So often we have this image of nonprofit organizations, and I'm going to close soon because we're all going to take a coffee break, that nonprofits have no money, they're not very well respected, they're not power players, they shouldn't be at the table. Save the Children's annual budget is $3 billion. $3 billion. Right now, we have in their impact investing program, 5 of our alums. All came from finance, right? So how you find your navigator on the ground, and when I'm looking at MBA students in Oxford and elsewhere, They're moving into that intermediary space because they have development experience and they have the finance experience. So the world is changing in terms of who our navigators are. We're going to talk about accountability too. There are now law firms. There was who's familiar with the mining disaster in Brazil? What was the most recent settlement? What was the most recent settlement? There's a settlement, negotiated by a London firm, guy from Oxford, $9.5 billion. It is, given the fact that it's cheap. 300. I know, yeah, literally. 9.5 billion. And what's happened, but this is another story. It's about finding capital and how capital finds its way in different venues. With that, thank you. I have a sense of who you are. I feel much better. I feel good about this. You're leaders with a moral compass. Thank you for the first phase, and we'll continue our journey. Coffee? Yeah? Thank you. Coffee room, back to the classroom, and I've got to be honest, I don't give breaks until 2 or 3 hours. So we do some standing, we do some yoga, but once you leave, it's so exciting to talk that you never come back, and then I get bored. So, couple questions. So I know environmental law. That's my background, right? So I've as my son said, he goes, "How many lives have you had, Mom?" So yes, I did environmental litigation. We raised the issues with great sincerity to my colleagues. They said they did ESG analysis. I said, "Excuse me, not so much." And the response was, no one cares about those issues. And the pesticides are legal in Ghana. Pesticides are legal in Ghana. We did an environmental review and the pesticides are legal in Ghana. That requires a moral compass. It also requires you to bear witness if in fact the media starts attacking you because your investor country does ban those pesticides. So it's a risk return that this group of people chose to take. I think that exercise for me, and again, what I've learned out of the 2,000 students who have, more than 2,000, who've done this case study, the names were changed, the countries were changed, etc., is that the moral compass was exactly what you said. No, or with conditions. Yes, but. And so that is a leadership question, right? That's an individual issue. It's an individual decision. Yes? It should be, but it wasn't. So keep in mind, friends I drink with, right? Stay overnight at their homes on the weekends, chose to ignore our recommendations. And again, I'm only raising these issues. I can't be with you at every deal. I have my own opinions. As I was telling Gabrielle, I was basically, at 25, I was running political campaigns, and a politician said to me, "You wear your heart on your sleeve, Gayle, you can't do that." So I continue to do that in the classroom. That's okay. But I think it's important to recognize the challenges, and I have examples of great deals. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to have you move out of this space with your eyes open. Not to give you happy talk, because I can give you lots of that, right? So, with that, wicked problems. These are the frameworks that we use in Oxford. And yes? Yeah. 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 And my friends who said yes, who represent some of the largest foundations that you would know and investors that you would know in the world. These are household names. It was a process of groupthink, and they had moved too far down the path. They generated publicity around the deal without thinking. But what was devastating to me, and why we teach this, is I asked what your moral compass was. And in Impact Investing Classroom over the past decade, we've watched this deal specifically unfold in the classroom with those investors. Because whether it's KPMG who came through my class, or a development finance institution who now looked at this deal as a, and it's not Ephraim Plains, who looked at this deal as a pipeline, right? Early pipeline. And so we watched it evolve. So there's lots, I'll keep you posted in the book and after we do the last of the interviews. The reason we chose a wicked problem framework, wicked problems are a leadership model. How many of you know about wicked problems in the context of leadership? You do, because you would. That's right. Yeah. And so I went back to graduate school. I went to University of Chicago, went back to graduate school at Oxford, and to talk about leadership, because I was having this conflict trying to understand why people wouldn't speak honestly about things that were going right and wrong in their deals. So wicked problems allowed the framework. So we use that at Oxford as and in the business school, and in many business schools, as a leadership model, wicked problems are used, yeah? Yes? Gabrielle, yes, sort of? But it's the cornerstone of my research. So the issues that keep leaders awake at night. Corruption, but yeah. So the World Economic Forum, it's the essence, isn't it?
Yes, I was former CFO.
Yeah.
And when you are in the C-level,
Yeah.
you are responsible and the face in front, not only the government, but
Right.
also investors and the shareholders. And shareholders say, that's your problem, my friend. Get the collection. But the government is not paying me. So find the way.
Find the way.
And these are the damn words you can hear. And my wife told me, sorry.
Yeah. So we're gonna circle back to that. We're gonna circle back to examples of every. Yeah. So hold that, because I agree with you. And naturally, if I agree with you, I'm gonna let you talk a lot. So let's go back to the World Economic Forum. Every year publishes the global risk analysis. Does anyone know about this? Yeah. It's right before Davos. There's an ironic twist to all of that. But what are the issues that keep people awake, the CEOs awake at night, who primarily have gone to business school? So we're going to think about that. Poverty and inequality, the disparity of those with have and the have-nots. We live that on a daily basis, the have and the have-nots. Lack of access to water. 2.2 billion people have lack of access to water. Lack of access to food and food security. 733 million people. People have died of infectious disease, right? So we've got health issues. Digital inequality, 2.6 billion, people in the world still lack access to internet. Natural resource crises. Environmental disaster caused by humans. Extreme weather. Weapons of mass destruction. Loss of biodiversity. Climate change. Misinformation. The top 5 issues have changed since the pandemic. Top 5 issues have changed since the pandemic. What's an issue that is now surfaced that wasn't there 5 years ago? Pardon me? Mental health, yes, mental health is critically important. But what else? There's something else. Pardon me? No, biodiversity. Biodiversity is coming up in terms of priorities. climate and biodiversity. Biodiversity didn't see the light of day for many years. And now it's becoming a dominant force in investment. I was just in Japan for 5 weeks. Pension funds, big banks are not only addressing climate change, but also biodiversity and those links together. And economics and livelihoods. But those are becoming drivers that are shifting decision-making and power. Decision-making and power. Alternative facts, misinformation. Challenges with AI, yeah? Challenges with how we deal with reality and facts and how we share it, what the interpretation is. So the wicked problem construct is really defining those issues. Here we are, Oxford without rain. That's important. It's rare. It's a Godzilla. Undefinable, unknowable, unstoppable. That's why we listen to Here Comes the Sun, right? These are really tough issues, right? And if they were easy, they would have been solved. And that's what impact investing, social finance does. We are tackling the most difficult issues in the world, right? With great courage. And it requires partnership to do that. The thing I liked about, I don't know why there's a blue box there, but it's there for a reason. The question I had about who owns it? So wicked problems are difficult to define, they're ambiguous, but they're really complex. But more important, problem solvers are liable for consequences. Liable for consequences. Liable for consequences. And we saw in Afram Plains what the potential consequences could be. So is liability something that investors should take responsibility for? Yes or no? Is liability for, as you're trying to address a wicked problem of hunger or poverty with your capital, should you also be liable if something goes wrong? Yes? Why? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So you create another problem. So liability. Liability. Yes? We're talking about legal liability. Any liability that you want, you're responsible for it. Is that a good thing? Is that an appropriate thing for an investor? Yes. So yes. Okay. So the held for responsible for consequences. All right. So this is a framework that we use as we move into our own leadership style. Many stakeholders, many opportunities for solution and consequences. We think about our own leadership and wicked problem there. I'm going to give you the speed dating version of this. We all have this, there are 3 ways of thinking about leadership. One is command and control. It's a crisis. Get out of the car, you have to do it now, you're going to die if you don't, right? I'm dictating what to do. Get out of the car, your life is threatened, you need to do it now. How many people like command and control here? There's nothing wrong, you can raise your hand. I have many of my best friends love command and control. Just do what I say now, you know? So there's that. Tame problems, manage déjà vu, manage solutions. I would never do this in any this life, future lives. I would never do this. It scares me to do this, right? But heart surgery, déjà vu, been there, done that. You know, it feels comfortable. I've managed my way out of it. Yeah, there's a comfort level. I'm just going to go back to what I knew, and I feel good about that. You know, if I'm a heart surgeon, I'm saving people's lives. I'm changing oil. I'm doing this. Okay. and wicked, complex challenges requires us to be adaptive leaders, to roll with the flow, to seek guidance in different ways, to bring in new voices and new partnerships, to listen with compassion. So it's a different strategy. So we move into negotiation of these deals. What do you bring to the table that will allow you to ask those questions in Afron Plains? See the system, listen to voices. Who's at the table? Do they represent the perspectives that you need? Are you willing to listen? Or are you going to expedite the decision? I just want to get this done, right? So it's an exploration of those. My research has been, again, to find out what leaders are yous who are making those investments. Are they command and control? Are they adaptive leaders? What are the results of that? And how does that influence the flow of money? So, unraveling the wicked. We see the system. Again, we use the human security frame. Each of those are tied to the SDGs. And who among you works on the Sustainable Development Goals? Yeah? Do we still think they're good? I love them because they define the problem. But capital's not flowing there, is it? Too many big holes. But they at least define the problem. Yes, but. I hear you. You know, the Millennium Development Goals existed too. But they at least call us out. They call out the issues. Yeah, that's right. So let me ask you a question. Out of all these issues, this is another thing I always ask my students. Which one is these the number one priority for you? Is there one that you focus on? It's a systems approach. I would look at all those, right? But needless to say, which is the most popular? Which receives the most money? And which receives the least money? Most money, yes.
No, I was thinking of which one is the most important.
Yeah.
Of course, they are important. But number 17 is or might be the solution to all of them.
Yes.
So I am actually focusing on that.
Yeah.
Because that, in my opinion, is
Right.
the way for the other ones to address them again.
Right. You're building partnerships, right? To address all those issues. And it is systemic. Anybody else? Thoughts, reaction? Yes. I wish I knew your name, so I apologize. You want to introduce yourself? Fantastic.
I work a lot with IDGs.
Yeah, yeah.
Development goals.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a sub-product of the SDGs. I don't know if you've heard about that.
So I think that piece of, so I'm going to do a Cliff Notes again. I do a lot of work on oceans. Oh, that's an exercise for you. And oceans, even though their connection to climate is significant, are one of the least areas of ambiguity, and people don't think they're important, right? So that gets the least amount. Poverty alleviation is number one, right? So I looked at 25 different leadership strategies for dealing with complexity, hard issues. What are the strategies that are taught most in business schools and around the world? So we came up with 7 C's, which my Chinese students came up with the C's, but they're still work for me. And these core elements of values-based leaders are courage, whether it's courage to adapt, courage to see the system, courage to bring your voice and wisdom to the table. So we're all going to do this exercise after class. So I just want to let you know that, yeah. Collaborate. These 2 children represent the essence of collaboration. They represent 2 warring factions coming to a healthcare clinic. Their parents and their tribes fight, right? But somehow they're united. So how do we collaborate and put our differences aside? What does collaboration really look like inside your organization and outside my organization? I had a conversation with colleagues yesterday in Africa. I do this African Venture Philanthropy Alliance Fellowship on Impact Investing. And a colleague from a pension fund said, how do I build relationships with the colleagues in-house in my pension fund? Because they don't want to listen to They don't want to hear what I have to say about using our money differently for social impact. And what's the message? And in Japan, there's made a huge leap in terms of pension funds being involved in impact investing and impact economy. So we can talk about those. It's communications and it's trust, relationship building. Community. How you build that safe space in your own organization to speak the truth when things go right and when things go wrong is really important. And how you work at a community level and how you find those navigators and translators for change if your organization doesn't in fact do that. How do you do that? How do you build community, a sense of community? Candor. How many Spider-Man movies have there been? With power comes great responsibility, yeah? Great responsibility. And when you have money and things go wrong, do you have the capability and the wherewithal internally to speak the truth? To say what's going on? Does anyone know the term wabi-sabi? Wabi-sabi. Wabi-sabi? So what is that? Exactly. If it breaks, it's beautiful, yeah? So how do we change the mentality of if it breaks, it's beautiful? If something goes wrong, we shift it, we reorient. And I'll show you some slides about why we don't. But anyway, this ability to be candid. Creativity, this is around scenarios and reimagining what is possible, and capital. And even though this is called financial capital, Gabrielle, you're here? Gabrielle's here. He made me put financial capital. Capital is considered people, money, and the wherewithal that we do our work at time. Yeah, whatever we view as important in terms of capital that we bring to the table. And compassion, empathy. How do we bring those elements into partnerships? How do you bring trust and compassion into the work when we don't have time and we're really busy? We've got to get the deal, we've got to make our money. So leadership, there's, again, there's more content around each of those strategies because they've been going on forever and ever, amen. So compassion, data-based compassion that shows that in fact compassionate leaders are more successful, they're able to lead exciting organizations and make more money. But how do we walk in this space with compassion? A path forward. We're going to skip ahead of this. She's no longer Prime Minister, unfortunately. So we're going to talk about investment strategies that we use in the classroom. And I also teach impact measurement. And how we bring those characteristics to impact measurement. So this is usually animated. I'm not sure why it's not. But again, the values and assumptions, what we bring to the table, values and assumptions will shape our organizational culture, will shape our investment on the other side. And how we learn in the center are based on our values and beliefs. The things that guide us, just as we did with Afrin Plains, whether it's macro projects or whether it's micro projects. One of the things that we do too is ask our colleagues to begin to understand what the system looks like. Yeah. So these are investors. There was a $1 billion deal initiated by 2 Silicon Valley foundations to address climate change globally. This is the map that I gave them to say they created an organization in India. And I said, to specifically focus on climate change, impacting women and children. And I said, have you thought about who's already in India that you may want to invest in? These dots, and if you were in Oxford, we'd make them interactive. Each dot would have a KPI and would show the amount, et cetera. All these organizations exist in India, working around the human security frame. around climate and their unique value proposition. The two investors in Silicon Valley did not talk to any of these people and did not know who existed. Ultimately, those investors got kicked out of India, and they're now back, but operating, I hope, more wisely. See who's there doing the work across that system, who can A, provide capital, B, provide knowledge, help you understand impact measurement, partner with you, and think beyond the box, right? Think beyond the box. So these are just examples of what we do when we do our individual impact investment for our students. Alignment. As investors, we always think that we know the kind of experience that we want our investee to have or beneficiaries to have. How do you make sure that those circles of alignment are consistent? Colleagues at Danone and Mohammed Yunus developed this strategy. It's just talking to people throughout an investment process, making sure that you're aligned, but it's the checklist, the check and balance of whose voice is important, and are you offering the experience that you want your beneficiaries to experience? And again, there was often we get stuck in a loop when we're making changes, and you need to move beyond just the strategy and think about your values and beliefs. So the Gates Foundation, anybody know about the Gates Foundation malaria nets? Gates Foundation malaria nets, raise your hand. Gates Foundation malaria nets. Okay, malaria nets. Yes, what do you know about them?
About the foundation?
No, not about the foundation. Although the foundation's getting sued right now in Africa for an investment that they made. Malaria nets, what happened with their malaria program? Malaria nets. Yeah, what happened with malaria nets? What happened with malaria? So they wanted to give free malaria nets, right? To end malaria, control malaria around the world. And what did the malaria nets do? How were they used? For fishing. And what happened to the fish? Because they caught frylings. They destroyed the fishing in local communities. They were used as marriage nets. They were used for sleeping nets. They were used for baseball or soccer, football nets. But they had negative consequences because they didn't talk to community, right? So they were ostracized, they lost money, and their reputation was ruined. They subsequently hired, after that scandal, someone who's focused on community and helped them try to restructure to be more community-centered. Anyway, I'm gonna get off this horse pretty quickly and talk about, again, how do you get the truth in your organization? What do you do to navigate that? When something goes wrong, how many of you have an organization that embraces candor when something goes wrong? How many of you? Anybody have a great organization that says, I love it when you talk about things that go wrong so that I can improve? Yeah? Who? Anybody? No? One? None. So what are the obstacles they get? What are the obstacles they get in your way of why you can't talk about things that go wrong? What are the obstacles? This is a cone of silence now. No one wants to face the truth, okay? And why? Yeah. So it's hard and you lose money. Other pieces.
It's a mistake to assume that things will go well.
Mm-hmm.
They won't necessarily go well. They might, hopefully, and we do what we can so that it happens. But at times, the fact that they don't go as planned may not necessarily mean that they didn't go well. They just went differently.
Yeah.
So that may be another path that we haven't thought about.
Right.
So that may be a good opportunity.
It's a good opportunity. So other things that you think would change the culture of your organizations that would make that, would embrace that. If you make mistakes, what do we tell our children? There's no such things as mistakes, only lessons to be learned. You're going to be better. It's going to be cool. You're going to be great. What is it? What would change?
Some organizations, non-profit organizations, are very conservative and do not take too much risk. Therefore, there are very few failures, but you don't progress too much.
So fear of failure. Fear of failure. So my colleagues in Brazil, who knows Vox Capital? Daniel Izo? Anyone? Vox Capital in Brazil? Brazil has one of the most vibrant impact investment communities, right? Not a lot of money, but still. And you'll have to, this is Daniel's language, not mine. The celebration of fuck-ups, that's what Daniel has. Celebration of fuck-ups. In Japan, it's wabi-sabi. If it breaks, make it more beautiful. So how do you change that paradigm? And we're going to talk. Feedback is failure. Exactly, exactly. So why don't organizations learn? Physiologically, neurologically, we experience fight-flight when something goes wrong, right? Fight-flight. Who knows what fight-flight is? Everybody knows what fight-flight is. Get the heck out of here, right? So an organization that is fearful, brains literally look like this, fixed, right? Not growth. So there's a physiological fear, literally, that forces our brains to operate in different behaviors. Now, if you're rewarded for candor, if you're rewarded for honesty, your brain can change. So it goes back to courage to do that. So as leaders, and I look at all of you as leaders, what will you do to bring into your organization a culture that embraces learning? That's how we become better. You're dealing with the toughest issues in the world. Come on, you're going to struggle, and you're going to learn, and you're going to adapt. But you want to be where the red is, and that requires intentionality when you're moving into a space. Now, one of the things that came out, I'm going to talk about Japan for just a second, is that impact measurement. We have a cohort of colleagues that have come through the program that are now in Japan making important decisions. So they've created and released in March the Financial Service Agency impact guidelines, IMN guidelines. And they've incorporated unintended consequences. From ESG to philanthropy to impact investing, that unintended consequences should be discussed and embraced, right? That's the first step. We'll use wabi-sabi as the break it, it is beautiful. We learn it, it becomes stronger and more resilient. So thoughts and reactions, it requires courageous leadership. You're going to walk in the space of complexity and difficulty with joy because solutions are there, but it's going to require that honest conversation about how do we get better? How do we get better? So am I losing you? Are you still bored? Are you excited? Do you want to do another case study? Okay. So investment trends globally. Again, I worry about this dramatic shift changing. In Japan, again, 84 to 90% of all people know what an SDG is. And most investors that I've talked to tie their investments to the SDGs, right? So that educational process has happened around the goal. And then in the United States and elsewhere, you know, I met with a colleague from Barclays in London. He said, we don't talk about ESG. Don't talk about it. Don't use those words anymore. So, or SDGs, we don't talk about those either. So we ride the wave of that, but tying them to the problem, I think, is really important. Blended finance. So how we unite or knit together our money and our capital from different sources is essential, yeah? So I tell the story. Everybody knows the Gates Foundation. How much do they give away annually? $8 billion. $8 billion annually, yeah? McKinsey Scott gives more, but $8 billion. Procter & Gamble spends $8 billion annually on marketing. The Ford Foundation spends about $750 million annually. The New York Public Schools spend $750 million each week. Public schools, each week. Where's the money and the power? Public sector, private sector. Philanthropy is a hangnail. Important and catalytic, but just part of where the wealth is, yeah? So important to keep that in mind. Blending that capital, and there's called de-risking. Philanthropy can be used strategically to de-risk capital, make it palatable for traditional finance to come in. That's really hard to do. And often what happens, social enterprises get caught in a hamster wheel just with philanthropic capital and unable to reach other kinds of markets. So how we blend that capital with great intentionality by aligning expectations. What does a bank need? What does a pension fund need to partner with other investors and philanthropists? How do you sequence it exactly? Align. How do you align it? So that with intentionality. And that's been, existing for a long time. But again, these are just structures. We teach blended finance and social finance, but that's, again, with a trend that's been happening. Pay for success. This is an old photo, so you have to eliminate that one. Pay for success. Who knows what pay for success is? What do you think? Tell me what pay for success means, my friend.
Well, from what I understand, it was the first way, the whole concept of impact investing, at least the first social impact one, was the way to have it.
Right.
And as I know, it's mainly, or at least one of the ones I know, social finance is in a way structuring, based on career impact bonds or ways of,
Right.
you have an outcome payer that pays.
Exactly. So it's exactly pay for success, and it's not a bond. This is nothing. It's a misnomer. Social impact bond is not a bond. It's not a bond. It's a contract. It's not a bond. And there's actually a SIB here in Argentina. It's caught on, and it's basically, I'm going to pay you. I'll pay you only if you deliver results. Only if you deliver results. And if you don't deliver results, I'm not going to pay you. So nonprofit organization or service provider, if you don't deliver on what you said you're going to deliver, I'm not going to give you your money. And so we've analyzed those deals. The first in the world, development impact bonds in education, in healthcare. I have my own opinion about those, but in terms of the evolutionary scale of impact investing and what most countries do when they're moving into impact investing, social impact bonds are one of the first strategies they use. First strategies they use for piloting whether impact investing works. Yes?
Don't you have to define what you understand for success?
It requires enormous negotiation. It's blended capital, right? It's blended capital, but you all have to be aligned with what those expectations are and what the deliveries are, right? And that process also has to fit the legal structure. So we'll talk a little bit more about that too. This is what the UBS Optimist Foundation, the first development impact bond in education, educate girls, looks like. It's a contract, and you have to have all of these partners. The outcome payer was a foundation. You've got a rigorous evaluation. It's complex. This process alone costs $750,000. Just the process of putting it together. $750,000. There are successes with SIBs and development impact bonds, but you have to go in with your eyes wide open. Because healthcare bond, development impact bond in India, the Trump administration came in and eliminated the agency that was negotiating as part of this development impact bond. They went away within a heartbeat. So politics matter when you've got government investors. You can't read this, but I'll tell you what it says. Impact investors recognize there needs for technical assistance. This is new territory for most organizations, especially NGOs and in finance. So the most successful funds that we've looked at, and I've looked at researched 150 funds around the world to say what works and what doesn't. Technical assistance for partners to help them understand their legal needs and their organizational needs is really important, and that accelerates the success rate by including technical assistance, often government funded or philanthropic funded, as part of the deal structure. Back row, questions of confusion or disagreement? Thoughts? No? But including technical assistance into the process makes it more successful. Yes? Uh-huh.
Measures to be adopted, and all the money goes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps when you have to just take that to the ground,
Yep.
there's no money left because that is not in the infrastructure that has been legally applied because that is risky.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, well, okay, how do I have a wonderful report. So what measures have to be taken?
Yeah.
Technical assistance provided by all different
Right.
actors. And then when you have to put it on the ground, there's no money.
And I think that's really important. Where does the money go? Up front, you have to make those decisions. Who needs technical assistance? What philanthropy can do in impact investing is they can provide that non-financial return capital, right? If we need to build the capacity of these investors, where can we put our money where we may not have a financial return on investment, or it may be minimal? How do we use that money? But it's with great intentionality and mapping out who's doing what and where can players pay and building the trust and aligning expectations throughout, yeah? Someone really, I'm so sorry. Can you do me a favor? Would you turn this off? It's so serious. I'm sure it's my son. Did you put my picture in? That's so needless to say, questions on trends. This is fast track. We usually have days to talk about this. Blended finance experience. Anybody got an experience in blended finance that they want to share? What worked? Or things that didn't? Yes? Anything? You've got great hair. I used to have red hair, by the way. Yeah, hard to believe. Natural red hair, too. Thoughts? Reactions? No? Makes sense? So work in Argentina these days?
I had the opportunity to discuss about social responsible investing. At the moment, I was not known by that name, let's say, 8 years ago, with 2 or 3 investment managers. And the problem I faced, I was working on behalf of one of my clients. The problem I faced in that moment was that the difficult to understand by the investment managers who is the end client, namely the last mile, talking in terms of telecommunications. We received some stupid answers not only here, but in the United States. The client is an American company. One of the top VCs in the United States asked why in Latin America everybody's not using iPhones. That was number one was a lack of knowledge of what is crossing the big river. Number one. Number two, yes, Americans, they tend to see the bottom belly. I have been working for 30 years with them, so I have no problem with that things. But the other one is not understanding the telecommunication industry. And that's fact. And with that fact, you can go, no matter how many data you bring over the table, nothing happens. And here in Argentina was that problem too.
So thoughts and reactions. We'll talk about, there's a whole issue of telecommunications in the Middle East and Africa and the lack of communication about that. So I consulted on that. Thoughts and reaction, yes?
Yes, also when you work with big companies,
Yeah?
you have to think that there is not just one vision of the company. And you have to work with sometimes big corporations that invest and they have some purpose in Europe, Switzerland. But then when you go to the industry in Colombia, Brazil, or Argentina, the agreement sometimes is difficult to keep because they have like different visions, different interests, and they're affected by different realities, needs. No?
So the different realities, how do you align when you've got someone who is in Luxembourg, right, or London, and needs to be working in Latin America? How do you begin to build those bridges? Thoughts? Hiring a navigator.
To that world and be able to communicate in both cultural mindsets.
So finding those navigators. So the entrepreneurs in the world, this is a big business. KPMG, I think, PwC hired 250,000 employees in sustainability. I think they've cut most of them in the past year, but 250,000 people globally, right? So it's becoming big business, which is good. 50,000 in sustainability. Yeah. So important, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And well, we were about to launch some very nice initiative.
Right.
It's 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And well, what happened is that pension funds were just disappeared from us. We were just about to launch something new.
Yeah.
With the stock exchange here, it was really a wonderful project that I see, and we had lots of really good ideas, and we were about to launch.
And poof, it went away.
And then we was just, if I to go to Chile, and well, we just get out of the project.
So other thoughts, yes. Mm-hmm.
They are such different countries and different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to start to think to be a little bit smaller, like a project where when people are, every culture is a different project.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying like only one project for India and for Argentina, it's never going to work.
Mm-hmm. Let's think about it. I want you to be mulling that over because we're thinking about designing a new impacted executive education program. So we're going to shift to you. This is going to be a conversation that you're going to have with me. Argentina highlights. You can hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Is this good? This work? Okay, I'll put it right here. Thank you. Argentina highlights. Argentina highlights. So, yeah, these issues. Yeah. Do you want to do your video now? Or should we wait? At the end? Okay.
Just
Yes, absolutely.
Just to say, I mean, in Argentina highlights the big crisis, economic and political we have, and now a complete change of, like driving change. It's really present for what we do. This is a very, we have a very big recession now. We come from a very big inflation. I mean, all of this is so strong for whatever we do. Our economic life is so small in every sense. So, I mean, it's impossible not to have that into account in whatever we do, no? Just to...
The idea of the social enterprises is a driver for many countries around the world. That's become their economic engines, right? As it always been. Small businesses have always been an economic driver for most countries. Right. Out of crisis comes good things, right? I mean, that's the, you can redefine the future economic opportunities, but I'm not going to be, it sounds very Pollyannish. So recent and impact investment deals. Anyone who is part of these deals, please let me know. Does anyone know this deal specifically? Gabrielle, do you know this deal? Yeah? You did the deal? So tell us about the deal. Is it good? Are you going to unpack it? I'm going to give you the microphone. I'm coming. And your name is? And you're from? Fantastic. Excellent. So tell us what happened. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, I'm an investment officer for EcoCredit. We are 2 staff here in Argentina. This is a social impact investor from the Netherlands. And we work worldwide. We are very focused on microfinance, but in Argentina, we are working a lot with agriculture. So this case is a pears and apples company. So do you have, I have a lot of information, but I don't know what to say, but it is mainly a climate resilience investment. It is just a long-term loan for anti-hail nets, but it is not only protecting the fruit from hail, but also from the sun, from wind, from a lot of things. And it is quite a simple investment because it is just, if you see a picture of I've been there, but if you see a picture of a net, it's just like 2 wood sticks and just a very simple net, but it is quite expensive. I think it was like, I would say $17,000 per hectare, which is quite a lot for something that looks so simple. But of course, we all know here the companies in Argentina are facing a lot of problems, and doing capital expenditure investing is really challenging. And even though our local financial system is very liquid, and the banks, they have a lot of money, they do not lend long-term loans. So someone from the Netherlands, which manage funds not from big family offices or very wealthy families. These our investors are middle-class European investors. And it is crazy to think that some middle-class person from, I don't know, France or Germany is giving a local company the money that we are not lending. And our banks, they know their clients really well, much better than someone from another continent. But I think we should build that culture of the long term. I think that is what we lack here. We do not trust our country in the long term, but fortunately, some some investors are willing to take risks here that we are not willing to take, that it is something very strange when you think about it. But we are really a small investor, not a big investor. But it is so crazy to see this.
So thank you. I love several words. Crazy to think here. Someone small is looking at Argentina, and you're addressing issues of climate change, and you're addressing issues of food resilience, right? So the world is looking at Argentina. Looking at Argentina, you remember I began with the Patagonia image? What does Patagonia have? What does Patagonia have that the world wants? Minerals, yeah, wind is minerals. Lithium, precious metals. Well, we're going to talk about water. Is there anyone from the Nature Conservancy here? Any Nature Conservancy, yeah? There was someone who signed up. Nature Conservancy is doing a major, pardon me? The organization called the Nature Conservancy. Yeah, in the Argentina office. They have a major water reclamation and water conservation project in Patagonia, specifically working with partners, yeah? But anyway, that's another story. So Louis Dreyfus Company. Okay. Yeah? So this is a Nature Conservancy project, a regenerative agriculture. Carolina, do you know this? Okay. Fantastic. So again, this is a major project focused on food systems and agriculture, on regeneration. Regeneration. Anyone know what the concept of regeneration is versus sustainability? My environmental EIS guy. What is regeneration versus sustainability? Restore the system, yeah? So that we've destroyed it so much that we need to restore. Channelized? Mm-hmm. So they're reclaiming, they're restoring. Exactly, that's right. So the concept of regeneration versus sustainability. So this is a major investment, a major partnership, blended capital. These are the partners. And I can certainly send you more information about this. But Nature Conservancy, we've trained NatureVest, which is their investment arm, and TNC, their impact investment arm. Probably 15 of colleagues have come through our program who are now leading their impact investment strategy. And Nature Conservancy is all about land protection and also acquisition, yeah? Right. So that's exactly, so understanding those assets of who's out there doing what. So again, these are partners. In terms of where impact investment dollars are going, in billions, Latin America, Mexico and Brazil, Argentina's in the middle after Chile. And in terms of investees, in impact investors that I've seen active in Argentina, it totals 13. Independent individual, it's not on this chart. It's on another map I can send to you. 36 in Brazil. 36 in Brazil. And more investors are moving into Brazil because of the rainforest, because of the Amazon, of which that is one of 11 countries. They're getting the bulk of the capital, yeah? Major drivers for climate finance. All right, your own SIB. Your own SIB. And I think I may have the wrong slides because I had lots of photos. Let me see if I've got the photos. No, I don't. This is the one that came in at midnight last night as opposed to the one that has the photos. So what came out of this particular SIB, right, is again focused on youth employment. And how do you get kids who dropped out of high school to get jobs? What kind of training program do they need? And the data was there, when you do a social impact bond, there are these data points that you have to achieve. So the first data point was, did kids graduate from the program? 87% success rate. Good, good. At the end, did kids keep their jobs longer than a year? 47% success rate. So the payout wasn't achieved in the last year. There's another issue, which when one goes into SIBs, one needs to understand legal structures. In Argentina, nonprofits cannot be considered investors or receive investment dollars, right? Similar in Mexico. So understanding the legal obligations and the challenges you face. So one of the things, yes, is that true? Is that a lie? Yeah? They modified the law.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you've got your own. Yes, we're sharing it.
Yeah. Oh, no. There may be some changes into that. I read it 2 days ago, related to the corporation, the sport corporations. They just changed some resolution which will allow civil associations to own companies. This is related to all discussion about the changes in the legal system for the sport clubs and the football clubs mainly. So that may be a window of opportunity for the rest of the nonprofits to be able to be investors and to own for-profit corporations, which right now.
I heard the law had been changed and modified to actually allow this SIB to take place, but there are, the word of wisdom is know the law, have legal representation when you're going to develop a social impact bond. In Mexico, there was a drive in Mexico, and you saw the impact of Mexico receiving most of the dollars in Latin America. There's been a drive by foundations to invest in impact investors for their nonprofit organizations. And this is the fishing industry primarily. So nonprofit organizations working in ocean conservation and fisheries conservation. And so there's been a drive to push these nonprofits to become impact investors or investees. And Mexican law does not allow nonprofits to receive any non-charitable funding. So what has happened in Mexico is a bifurcated system. So you have some of the most successful ocean conservation organizations in Mexico, reaching 350,000 fishers with sustainability messages. Now moving into the impact investing space, they have to hire new staff, new accountants. They have to train their staff in finance, not in conservation. So you create a complete infrastructure. One investor that's been in Mexico for 30 years just pulled the plug and is leaving Mexico, right? A major philanthropic investor is pulling their plug. And at the same time has been encouraging nonprofits to get into impact investing. And it's a different skill set. You gotta be a unicorn, right? So how one understands that ecosystem, but the law is gonna be really important. Know the regulation. Building partnerships takes time and it costs money. A foundation for the first DIB, again, $750,000 to structure something in a 3-year project, yeah? So it is not discouraging you to do this, but it is saying, go in with your eyes open. It is not a panacea. And it's really important to understand what works and what doesn't. But there have been models around the world that have been successful. So just make sure that you understand the consequences. But that's the first kind of investment that is just often made in countries around the world. Social impact bonds and development impact bonds. B Corp, how many of you are in B Corp? You're B Corp? Yeah, B Corp, yeah? Tell me how big it's
Yes, it is very big, especially in products, natural products.
Yeah.
And recycling products. There's a huge move on that area.
Into B Corp.
Yeah.
And so did everybody know what a B Corp is? Anyone know? Yeah.
It's a French company.
Ah.
They changed it's Danone, but they changed their corporate structure.
Right.
It's a B Corp.
Okay, fantastic. Other people know what a B Corp is? Raise your hand if you don't. Explain what the B Corp is.
It's a certification that you will be compliant to certain sustainability goals, but it's more than a declaration. You have to change your bylaws in order to say that you will devote money of your return to such a project. And that's why it's difficult to go back or to not comply with that certification. And the agency, that is the B-Lab, certifies that you are complying with your declaration and you continue doing that. And that is the beauty of this seal. If you go to a natural grocery, you will find aisles of B granola bars or cereals, because they found that this is a marketing tool also.
So I think that piece, so it's really, are you a social business and you're still making a profit? So some of the big names, Patagonia Company is a B Corp, Salesforce is a B Corp, Virgin Airlines with Richard Branson started B Corp. So there are major corporations. Has it caught on in major corporations? Not so much. But a really important network to be involved in terms of progressive thinkers, in terms of interesting models. And again, the idea of marketing to a growing younger generation in particular, looking for more sustainable products. So the growing market. So what does Argentina offer again? Largest lithium deposits in the world, precious metals, water, soybean producer for biofuel, oil and gas in Patagonia, and natural gas and fracking. So controversial topics to some, or not. Not? So go lithium mining? Yeah? Go lithium mining? Who supports lithium mining? Broad scale lithium mining? Raise your hand. Development. So mining brings development. Other one who's opposed? Colleagues who are opposed? Yes, but. So raise your hand. Who is in the yes, but? Yes, but. Who wants a yes, but? So in this room, you see the divide. Yeah? The yes, but. So I talked about the $9.5 billion settlement in the Chilean company in Brazil with a mining disaster, right? That is still 5 years later has not been mitigated, but is being litigated. Investors are investing in the research and the litigation and getting a return on their investment. Now that's a growing field in this space, new capital for litigation. There's a growing number of organizations. One is called the Accountability Council in DC, which is a law firm, specifically scrutinizing impact investments at large scale. So, growing field. So, watching what you do is really important, and mining around the world is being watched closely, both the harm and the good that it can do. So, demanding with great intention mitigation strategies, the cleanest process possible, so that you don't end up with 100 years of destruction, right? Those are negotiations about leadership and values, right? Short-term versus long-term. And those are your conversations and conversations that are happening in the world. The Democratic Republic of the Congo has one of the largest lithium deposits in the world, also one of the most rich biodiversity areas. So that idea of biodiversity and climate, coupled with the challenge of electric vehicles and how we meet those needs, is on the table around the world for impact investors, for social investors, and that is where Argentina is, right? You can be a leader demanding greater scrutiny and demonstrating to the world what process you're going to use, or you can just say, go for it, do whatever you want. So what do you choose to do and how do you do it, yeah? The cooperative movement has been around a long time. Your research in co-ops, what we're finding too is community wealth building is centerpiece on ownership, on owning a piece of the business. How do we instill ownership? And co-ops are one mechanism of doing that. Does my esteemed colleague like to talk about this issue, since your research?
You need to turn off, otherwise. Okay, 1 second. So actually, we did some research. We don't focus our research on co-ops, but I find that in general, the cooperative movement, it's not seen as part of the same social scene or sphere as the rest of the social-oriented organizations, be that non-profit, social enterprise, or social responsible businesses. It's like a separate world, and we need to, I think that we need to build the bridges because there is a lot of social good created there. At the same time, unfortunately, there is some public image that has been damaged about the figures of cooperatives for ideological or political reasons. There is a part of the cooperative movement that it's associated with what's here it's called social movements, and some people like them and some people don't like them, and so it's in the mix of what you also have in the US, this cleavage, political cleavage. So, but no doubt that there is a lot of public good done in many small towns. Public service companies are like local governments. They are important business groups controlled by co-ops like Sancor Seguros, let me mention both the co-op and the mutual movement, San Cristobal, in the insurance companies, or even in the agro business. ACA, Asociación de Cooperativas Argentinas, is a huge conglomerate of that run important part of our economy as well.
And there are big co-ops to land of lakes, private-owned companies, family-owned companies like Cargill. 85% of all Canadian beef comes from Cargill. Isn't that mind-blowing? 85% of Canadian beef. That's not the case in Argentina. So the co-op movement, what we're looking at yes.
Only one point.
And I think that piece is really important to understand. The name isn't what you're talking about, it's the essence of who owns it, right? Who owns the co-op? Who controls the co-op? What are the impacts that they're having, positive or negative? What we're watching in terms of our alums doing their own unicorn businesses, they're focused on cooperatives and community ownership. So, and the how-to, There's some really interesting work in the Amazon. There's interesting work in cities around community ownership, community banks. So there are some really exciting things. But again, the co-op movement can be what you define and how you define it, yeah? All right. So with that, I look at our colleagues. GSG, impact. Who knows what GSG impact is? Okay, and again, this is the start of impact investing around the world, a network. So, you're actively involved.
The GSG is the Global Steering Group. It was created by Sir Ronald Cohen, that is one of the fathers of the impact investing movement in London, in the UK. And they developed a network of, I think that, I don't know how many are nowadays, more than, yeah, but there are a lot. And in Argentina, there is one that is Argentina and Uruguay, created by Maria Laura Tinelli, that she's also a very prestigious referent in the topic. Yeah, and you can join the conversation, and then when there is an annual conference or a biannual conference hosted in different countries, I had the opportunity to be in the last one, and it was in Spain, in Malaga, where more than 1,000 practitioners from all across the world come, and you have policymakers, social entrepreneurs, impact investors, and yeah, it's a network to share case studies, knowledge, debate around the latest trends. So yeah, I encourage you to join the.
Yeah.
Because we felt that the topic was already taken by many other organizations. So we didn't see the need to maintain a separate group.
Yep. And I think that what you're hitting on is that became a nexus in the beginning for institutions around the world in country to begin the conversations around impact investing. Same thing is happening in Japan, same thing is happening in Africa, same thing is happening in around the world, that it moves from being an independent voluntary organization to needing staff to manage it. And the question is, does it take away from or enhance the organizations that exist? So, but it's a resource right now for information, and it exists. At least it did. So. We're doing the case in Japan that I'm working on right now is again focused on impact economy and the GSG. The GSG allowed pension funds with very strategic approach that was started by philanthropy and brought in traditional finance to actually to the table to pilot projects, to demonstrate how impact they could have, what kind of impact they could have. So it was a strategic political decision to bring in corporate finance in particular, and that's why banks and the largest banks in Japan and pension funds are doing it. One of the most exciting opportunities comes from our alums around the creative economies. So who knows about the creative economies? Creative economies? Creative economies, what does it mean? Yes? All that has to do with culture. More than that. It's more than that. And what's it more than? What is it more than? And how much money globally is creative economies worth? Money of creative economies. Okay, so the creative economies globally. 29 billion? It's probably more than that, actually. In Latin America alone, 29 billion in Latin America alone. So I've been online as I've been trying to find my music. And when I think about the current stars, hip musicians, and the amount of hits they get on TikTok, 22 million, Taylor Swift, she's got her own industry. Burna Boys, so music, art, theater, and technology. And also in impact investing around the world, the arts were the first to receive, one of the first group of organizations to receive impact investment resources through loans, especially in riding out recession and difficult economic times. So there's a lot of long history with impact investing in the arts industry.
Argentina was very innovative and with the loans, no, with el Fondo Nacional de las Artes in last century, let's say like 60, 70 years ago, no? So.
And the leaders are here. The leaders are here. So we're celebrating an anniversary of one of their leaders. So again, how we do an exercise in Oxford around how would you build a 500, was it 500 billion? Yeah, global fund to support the global fund for the South creative industries, right. Working on the continents of Africa and in Latin America. There we go. Yes, dear.
No, just to tell everybody that from Fundación Compromiso, we built with Upstart Collab and Nesta, the Arts and Finance Program, a global report on all kind of investments in the creative economy and all the companies working in creative economy and impact. No.
You can have access. Anybody wants copies of these? Please, feel free. There's this is what the SIB looks like for here in Argentina. So I have a rule in the way I teach and the way I do my work. If my mother can't understand it, then I need to go back to the drawing board. Yeah? Okay, 15 minutes. You know what, we're gonna be over early, I think. Oh, there's the impact, here we go. So you all can look at this. Lessons learned, there we go. You've got lots of evaluation opportunities. I just happened to find this one again. We've got a lot of students from IDB. But all those dots, you do evaluation and impact measurement. There's an organization called Blue Mark that does evaluation, and I think they're really very good. Only 18% of their clients measure for unintended consequences, right? Only 18%, and that's actually high for most of the field. So it's something we need to look at. So, question for you, given our conversation. I personally believe that a week in Oxford is a wonderful experience for building a network. And it does not get at the deep issues that we have to address. So we're looking at, and this is you shaking your heads, yes, no, or in a confused way, maybe, yes, maybe, of doing an executive education program in collaboration with other business schools, policy schools, social work schools, conservation organizations, et cetera, to begin to understand and teach what sustainable practice looks like in places like Patagonia, in places like the Serengeti, in places in Indonesia and the last remaining rainforest, to work with corporations, to work with NGOs, to work with public sector, to really teach what sustainable practice looks like and regenerative practice looks like. And that's a year program, not a week in Oxford. So is it a dumb idea, a good idea, something we should consider? You know? Exactly. Well, so the question is, do you want to welcome us? Do you want to welcome us to do this? And I, you know, I always look and say, when I was, so that for us is how do we begin to address these complex issues and to teach and bring people together to actually invest. So people come to this class have to bring investment resources too, right? So that's what we're exploring. And I've got a colleague in Santiago we're working with. We have a really wonderful network throughout Latin America, Indonesia, around the world. So anyone that wants to help us explore what that might look like, please talk to me. And if you think it's a really dumb idea, I want to hear that too. Especially. We have a film, but I want to say I'm ending early-ish. I know you're getting to that point where it's like, enough with her already. It's time for her to, like, I'm ready for lunch. I hope this has been a worthwhile experience for you. Please give me feedback if things that you'd like to change. If you're in Oxford, we go into greater detail. That case study is a half-day process. But it's been a joy being here. And we will watch a video, but I want to leave you with this. We'll wait till this is over, though. Yeah. Not yet. Yep, hang on. We don't want to get the video yet. No. We'll wait till this is over. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know this place for the first time. I think it's important to understand what do the evocative images mean to you? What did you see in those images? What did you see and feel in those images? Beyond the walls of this room, what did you see? What did those stars mean for you? The connections? What else? Pardon me? Harmony. What else? Beauty. What else? Energy. Dreams and imagine. Is there anything linear in that? No. Anything linear in that? No, it isn't. And that embodies what impact investing can and should be, right? So with that, I want to thank you. We're going to end with a video. Thank you for the opportunity. And we hope to see you in Oxford sometime.
No, we hope to see you on the 24th.
And we hope to wait since.
Because we hope to see you all on the 24th, because we will keep this conversation. We'll need you all, not to really strengthen impact investing in Argentina. So let's take advantage, no? And let's take the chance to have Gayle with us.
Well, thanks so much, Gayle, and thanks Fundación Compromiso, our partner. Right. I want to invite all of you to follow up on this path that we are trying to build in getting us focused on the impact and the transformations we want to create in the world. We have different alternatives for each of you to follow in this learning process. Hopefully some of you will choose to go to Oxford. It's a great place, and always to interact with people from all over the world, open our minds. But if you can't do that, we also have some offering here for companies in our program called Procarse, for nonprofits in our graduate program. For new businesses, we have a program called Pro Impact. We have here a couple of participants. We also are launching a program. We launched it last year on sustainable finance and impact investment, a short course that will help you to get a little bit deeper than we could get here. And also we have a program on ESG reporting. So we have a wide offer for those of you who want to follow and get deeper into this very needed path to help our world to get a better place, using tools from businesses, using tools from public policy, using tools from law, using tools from the disciplines, different disciplines and professions that bring something special and important and require to this tremendous task that we have ahead. And on the 24th, there is a great opportunity also to learn from Gayle and from many organizations that are trying to work on this path as well. So, okay.
Tenemos que querer a esta mamá para que ella pueda querer a su hija. Acompañémosla para que pueda hacer un cambio.
Hablamos un ratito y cuando se está yendo Santino, el padre me dice, lo acabo de conocer. Yo, ¿cómo que acabas de conocer a tu hijo que tiene 5 años? No, lo que pasa es que yo estoy preso hace 5 años y mi exmujer no lo quiere traer a la cárcel.
Estamos confiados con seguir planificando, pero es fundamental que la estructura sea flexible y ágil.
Hablamos que la misión es como una especie de evento movilizador. Es algo que mueve las voluntades de dos grupos que quieren hacer algo en común para el bien común.
Bien, muchas gracias a todos y hasta la próxima.
Sí, una foto. No, acá. A picture, we need a picture. No se vayan. Vamos a hacer una foto.
Queremos sacar una foto todos. ¿Quieren pasar adelante con Gayle?
Pedilo en el micrófono, Marce, que te digan el micrófono.
No se vayan,